Today I want to chat and use the board in order to explain how using a model called the Iceberg, which is one of the system thinking model, you can easily understand what are the limitations of management or where you can plug your influence when you're doing management. So let's start with this model. It's a pretty simple model, and it looks like an iceberg. So I don't know how to paint an iceberg, but I try. And the idea about an iceberg that there is a line. So this is what you see, and this is what you actually can't see. And there are four layers of this iceberg. So the first one is events. Then there are patterns, and I explain them all. Then there is a structure. And then there are mental models. And system thinking actually uses it to explain behavior within organizations. So events are what you see. Something happen, something pop up, that's an event. In some part of time, you start to realize that certain events, when they are combining together, they're creating a pattern. And that's what we mean by pattern. So if A and B and C happening, that's a certain pattern. If I have a lot of complaints coming from customers, an event. If I have customer leaving, an event. If I have people leaving the marketing department, an event. For me, the pattern is something wrong with this group, and I need to do something to fix it because it's impacting bad my bottom line. An example. The third layer are structure. So this is actually what is the structure that you put in place in terms of physical structure, policies, procedures, all the managerial aspect that you put in place in order to support your organization. And last but not least, and by the way, structure has, as you can see, a severe or not severe, but crucial impact on behavior. And last but not least, you have mental models. This is something that you came with. This is a concept that you have in your mind, very hard to change, that actually govern your behavior. Eventually, you see stuff, and you connect them into patterns, and you structure them in a way, or you will use certain structure to deal with them, and it's all based on the mental model that you have here. Very hard. So in terms of change, very hard to change. From 1 to 5, the hardest one to change are mental models. Very hard to change mental models. Very, very, very hard. Takes a lot of time. Very hard to change structure. Much more easier to change patterns. Events, 5 as well. You can't change it. You don't have any control. So the idea here is pretty simple. I can't control events as management. Simply I can't do that because I don't have any control about what's going on. I'm just observing what's coming up, and I can influence it. Well, I know that people believe that they can control reality, but go and read a little bit about chaos mathematics and complex adaptive system and quantum physics, and you find out that your ability to control is much less than you think. So after you understand that, you can try to influence as much as you can. You want to do it, but you don't have any control of that, okay? So you don't have any control, or your ability to influence mental models is extremely low. So I wouldn't put any managerial effort, or I would put, if we are doing behavior over time to each one of those. This is a very slow effort that I would put in place in order to influence or to do something. So, in a management perspective, what I want to do, I want to influence people. So I'll have some kind of behavior that I think need to be done in order to achieve goals of the company. So using mental model to change behavior is tricky. The odds are very low and it takes a lot of time, and you won't have a lot of influence. Okay, events, it's like there's nothing you can do. Many people might think that you can do something, but even if you can, it will be very, very, very minor. Your control on external events is almost nothing. So you're left with two: patterns and structures. Patterns are actually easier to change, or actually the best place where you can get the most of the bang for the effort that you're going to put. So this is, if you start to educate people that this event and that event and this event is actually certain pattern, they over time start to adjust it. Okay, it's going to be a slow of behavior over time. It's going to be a slow change, but over time it will pick, and eventually you find out that new patterns are in place, and when people see certain events, instead of jumping to old conclusion, they will jump into a new conclusion much more easier place to be. The last one is structure. So it's hard to change structure, but it's feasible. The problem with structure that it's a very slow change as well. So it will be very slow change, and then it's going to be us going up and down. So this is something that you want to focus, but not necessarily 100%. So if you ask me, if I'm coming to an organization and I was asked, hey, help us to see where we can start to invest time and effort in order to change people behavior, in order to get more behaviors, and we can more influence people in terms of getting where we want to be, then I would say start with patterns. You know what? Let's use all the colors that I have in my disposal. So I would start with patterns. This is the most easy one. And then I move to structure. I wouldn't spend any time and effort in trying to influence events. I would spend more time and effort in order to prepare people by structure and patterns how to deal with different types of event, unknown events as well. And I wouldn't spend time and effort on mental models. I might do it after I'm doing one or two, but we're talking about like years of work. So if I'm coming and I'm just need to roll my sleeve and start to do something, this is where I'm going to focus. So hopefully this model will help you to get better understanding where you need to focus in order to get better influence on the organization or the groups that you are responsible for, or took from your own freedom the initiative to push forward as well, which is actually much better than the first one. So that's all. Thanks. Bye.